This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse. Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. That One Audition Wednesday Wisdom, where we try to bestow some wisdom upon being a working actor. Hi, I'm Alyshia Ochse. I'm a working actor. You might know me from some great work like True Detective, The Other Woman, Satisfaction, lots of Hallmark films, Lifetime is coming sometimes my jam. And recently, Hulu's The Other Black Girl, which I'm very proud of. And I have here my amazing work wife on the Bridge for Actors, Anna LaMadrid, and myself co-founded this amazing holistic online training to take you from being a student of acting to a working actor. And here's Anna LaMadrid, who's also
Hi, my name is Anna LaMadrid. I'm a working actor. That's how I slate. No, I'm joking. You may have seen me in many comedies like The Goldbergs, Maggie, Call Your Mother, and I was in Grey's Anatomy, on Vida. I'm recurring as Rocio on This Fool. You might have also seen me on Twitter go viral for Fake Angela on The Rehearsal first season. And most recently, I got hit by a bus on Shining Vale opposite Courtney Cox, which was really, really fun. So that's what I've been up to.
So we, as working actors, wanted to tackle this common thing, the phrase, I'm a working actor. What does that mean? And how long did it actually take you to be able to say that? Why does it take us so long to say it? What does it mean? We're going to get into it right now. Okay. Happy Wednesday. We're in Wednesday Wisdom. I really wanted to evaluate this whole term, one, because I now have a whole entire lovely community based around this. And Anna is here, my lovely work wife from the Bridge for Actors. We both come from such different backgrounds, but are unified in doing this business, working as actors. And I had an epiphany this weekend while watching Maestro, which everybody needs to go see. It's absolutely riveting. But on the way home, I was listening to an interview that Bradley Cooper was giving, and he was telling every actor that was getting the job. They were barely auditioning, really. But he was talking to them, and he's like, this is the one job that you will never feel like you're working as an actor on it. And I was like, ooh, what does that actually mean, working as an actor? And I'll start with myself. So, because I did this post the other day where I was talking about, I had this dream of being an actor, but since I was probably 5 or 6, I was obsessed with seeing hundreds of myself in mirrors because my hallway was mirrored on both sides. So I remember making movements and watching them and being like, oh, there's 100 of me waving. Oh, and telling my mom and writing it in kindergarten, in those really thick lines when you're learning how to write, when I grow up, I want to be in the TV. I'm 5. I don't know what that means. But as I evolved and being from Kentucky, around that time, I didn't know anybody else that was doing it. Not to date myself, but it wasn't accessible. You couldn't internet search. There was no internet. You couldn't search. I kept telling my mom I wanted to be an actor. She put me in modeling. That didn't work. Because I wouldn't quit playing sports. I got told, oh, you think you're special because you want to be an actor? And I was like, no, I don't even really know what that means. And I'll never forget the day that I really finally, it cracked for me, is I was sitting in a therapy session, crying my eyes out because my quote unquote career wasn't going the way that I want it to. And she stopped me in my tracks and she said, well, what do you think it means? What do you think it meant to you when you were 5 years old and said, I want to be in the TV? I'm like, I want to work as an actor. And she goes, yeah, Julia Roberts works. Think she's fine calling herself a working actor? I was like, yeah. She's like, when you're 5, you didn't think that being an actor meant auditions, or maybe that person that you saw in the movie, they might have only worked that one film, maybe for their whole entire life. So trying to define what it meant for me started in a place where I just knew I was so riveted by what I was watching in the TV that I literally wanted to jump in there. I liked watching people express themselves. I liked watching people lie. I liked watching people. The human condition fascinated me, right? So I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't know what it meant to be a working actor. I'm so curious, your formidable years, when did you decide like, oh, I want to be an actor? Were you older?
I was older. It's hard because I think there was always a performer inside of me, but there was, similar to you, there was no language around it. My parents didn't have anything to do with that, to some extent. My dad was actually a DP in Venezuela. And
What?
so, yeah, he was a camera guy. And so but I never was exposed to it, because by the time we came to the United States, because, I'm an immigrant, I was born in Venezuela, I came here when I was 8, he couldn't get into the union. So he couldn't pursue that anymore. And he started working at factories, painting houses, totally left that life behind. But so I didn't get exposed to it as a kid. I had no language for it, but I knew that I liked being in front of the camera. There were countless of pictures with me posing. And my mom said that I would get up and like sing and perform for them. I didn't know that it could be a career either. I think I remember seeing I think it was a high school trip. We went to see Les Mis, and it was a spectacle. And I was like, what is that? So I think my entry point was theater, because it just felt so visceral and so alive. And I wanted that. I still didn't know I could pursue it as an art form. I went to college. I studied journalism and advertising, again, because I thought, well, if I can't be in TV, I'll make it. I'll make commercials. And that seemed like a fun career. So went to school for all of that, and then was working at Cartoon Network. I remember this. And I saw my undergraduate classmate in a commercial. And it was the first time that I had seen somebody that I knew, that I went to school with, on TV, that made it possible. And that moment I was like, okay, well, I lived the American dream. I have a corporate job. I'm stable, but I want to do that. And I started literally researching classes in Atlanta, and that's what started my path.
I love that you actually saw somebody that was working and that spawned it, right? So even when I was little, I was like, I want to be an actor, but I don't need to, like, do you work to do it? Because, not to get into the nitty gritty, but I think a lot of people relate to this small town mentality. Nobody was an actor, so you don't get to work. It was the starving artist mentality, right? Like nobody gets to be a working actor. There's either just the celebrity, or you're doing, the Christmas play.
Theater, I guess.
Exactly, right? And you're the mouse in the Christmas theater. And when you grow up, great, you're going to be an accountant. Yeah. That's just a hobby. Like the arts are just a hobby. So you actually getting to see somebody, like a contemporary, right? Getting to be like, you can actually make money doing this.
But I didn't even that didn't even equate to me. It was just like, that's possible. I had never seen somebody that looked like me, or that, you know what I mean? I was like, how did they get there? And then that just spawned the curiosity to start gathering more information.
So then, because you and I have such different histories, and this is why I love us teaching together, or us coming together. We're total yin and yang, and everything that I do on this podcast, everybody, it's just your journey, right? There's no right or wrong way. Matthew McConaughey, oh no, Brad Pitt. I saw Brad Pitt doing an interview the other day, and he was like, well, Quentin Tarantino, it's kind of like Shakespeare. He goes, not that I ever did Shakespeare, so that sounds, but it's fucking Brad Pitt. Like you go, people that once you're like, oh, okay, I want to be an actor. Now what do I do? Again, dating myself. Like I just was like, well, I want to be in TV and film. So I just need to get to LA or New York as fast as I possibly can, so I can learn what I'm doing. Because in Kentucky, there wasn't many resources for me to do, I didn't want to be a tree for a whole semester in school. I wanted to
I did take one acting class in college that was like an elective. But again, had no idea, just kind of did it for one semester, because I was like, well, I have one free elective, I might as well pursue. It was always there. It just wasn't nurtured. And I didn't feel like I had the permission to nurture it, because there's also like a responsibility, right? You come, you're an immigrant, your parents made these sacrifices for you to like achieve something that doesn't feel like something to achieve. It feels like what you said, frivolous. It's not something that's going to give you a pathway to make a livelihood. I didn't understand how it could. So I was like, I'll follow journalism, advertising, and then that'll be something that I just do for fun.
Well, then what was the impetus for you to go get your MFA? Because you have proper training. You went and you did the whole shebang.
Yeah, so while I was in Atlanta studying, I actually did a 2-year conservatory before going to grad school. So I have a ton of training,
How
like
much training?
formal training. But again, I don't know, I guess the universe just kind of opens pathways for you, because 3 different people who didn't know each other in Atlanta talked to me about Maggie Flanagan in New York and her studio. And I was like, by the 3rd time that her name randomly came up, I was like, okay, I'm going to just call and see, because they had a summer intensive, like a 3-month summer intensive. And at that point, I was working for Cartoon Network. So I got my job to transfer me to New York from Atlanta, which was
What?
crazy. Can't believe I did that. So I can study and then sort of just pursue it while I was there. I thought I was going to learn how to act in 3 months. That's how naive I was. I was like, in 3 months, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna start booking things. I can quit Cartoon Network and be done with it. And in those 3 months, what I learned was that I knew nothing about acting, and that it was such a deeper kind of study of not only your, like, what it meant to like utilize your instrument to its fullest capacity was something that I didn't understand. I thought I'll just pick up lines and read them, make them
Right.
sound
Everybody thinks.
funny, make them do whatever. Just, I was copying a lot of things. Like I remember I did a monologue from like a Jodie Foster film, and I was like, I've always been a good mimic because I moved around a lot, so I've always imitated people to sort of fit in, and so I could imitate. And I was like, wait, that's not acting. Actually, acting is about your like point of view, and how you enter story and all of that stuff that came later. But that was like the beginning of sort of cracking that open. And after those 3 months, I was like, oh no, I have to like really invest in this.
I love that you went into the investment part of it. It's like you and I have we're so alike, but then have different, ideologies, nature and nurture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nature, I think both of us are definitely in that performance lane, but how we were nurtured, I was so hit over the head, nurtured with that. What's your plan B? What's your plan B? What's your plan B? And I'm such a defiant child. I'm so shocked that that was the one thing that I let my surroundings, my family of origin, everybody else kind of have insight on, or even or influence on. So I did come to LA with the primary job. I worked for an outside sales company called Rubbermaid. I had to get braces when I first got here. I cried my eyes out. I was like, I'm finally in LA and I can't, I'm working in outside sales. I had braces for a year. And I remember during that time, it was the one year that I didn't think about acting because I couldn't. I had braces. Like, who's going to hire? Maybe now it would be chic, but definitely not then. I remember praying, I was like, okay, God, maybe I am too defiant. And just because everybody's saying I can't do it, I'm going to push to do it. I need validation, or I need to prove everybody else wrong. And I prayed upside down and sideways, like just let me do something else. And I remember the week I got my braces off, I got an agent at the top of the week. And then I booked a commercial and a film.
What a way for the universe to be like, hey girl, hey, yes.
and a third thing. So like, even how you said the 3 people, right? I do think signs comes in 3s. So I was like, okay, oh my God, I'm doing it. I'm a working actor. But I'm going to tell you again, it took me another 10 years to even say I'm a working actor. This is why I think that this Wednesday Wisdom is actually really important. Years of therapy, years of deconstructing what I thought about other people thinking about what I was doing, having countless side jobs. And then I think it was around, I would say maybe right after True Detective, and when I was sitting in that therapist office, and she was like, what does this mean to you? That I had to really sit and define it for myself. And I was in a writing class at the time, and I'll never forget the writing class would always start with the teacher saying, a writer is someone who writes. And I was like, oh, it's just the simplicity of that. A working actor is somebody who works on acting. And here's where I'm going to blow up a lot of myths. I feel like a lot of actors say, I'm an actor. I'm a working actor. Never once have they auditioned. Never once have they read a play. Never once have they studied the human condition. Never once they're not out there reading the trades. They're not trying to get to know, they're not doing anything to work towards being an actor. You can like measure your writing, right? You can sit down and you can write. You can also measure your working ethic as an actor to be able to call yourself that and own
Yeah,
that?
and I
I'm
think
curious your theory.
well, for me, and it might be similar, even though, again, we always come from different lenses, but we always arrive at the same place. But I do think it has to do with, for me, my immigrant mentality, but for you also, like small town sort of mentality, where what we value is it's not working if there is no compensation for it, right? It's survival. We have to survive. So I'm not going to put value on anything that I invest my time in unless there's a monetary response to that, which is why it's so difficult to sort of feel like we're worthy when we are engaged in pursuing this art form, because so very little of this is actually us being on set and getting that paycheck and being validated in that way. And so it took me a really long time. Even when I was in school, I didn't equate that to working, because school was a way to get compensation in the way of validation, right? I was getting a degree. It was all goal oriented. But the messiness about being an artist is that much of the curiosity and the investigation of like getting to know your instrument isn't goal oriented. It's actually a living thing that is with you forever and will constantly be shifting, and you are being reintroduced to yourself, and all of that is working, is being a working actor. And then you fold in the business part of that, and you are working every single day. And I still struggle with it because capitalism is so deeply embedded in everyone's psyche. And I, I'm sure we've had conversations around like, I feel like I didn't do anything today. And you'll be like, Anna, you did this, 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 and this. And I'm like, oh yeah. But again, if we don't have that idea of like when we were little, like being on set is working. And if I'm not on set, that means I am not working. And everything else is just like something that I'm trying to get through in order to get that carrot, So it takes time. I don't think it started to sort of break down for me until 2020, honestly.
I think, well, and I think even, I love that you said the compensation part, because the analogy that I give whenever we're teaching and when I'm talking to people that are just starting in the industry, because I don't want them to have the lacking confidence that I had in myself, because I do believe that acting mostly is confidence in your instrument, confidence in your content. That's why I even named one of our courses, Content is Confidence. It's just the confidence around the confidence piece. Even a lot of people that I talk to on the podcast, if they did go to conservatory, a lot of people say what they gain from that is just the confidence that they could do it. But going back to the confidence and compensation piece, Julia Roberts has no problem calling herself a working actor, but she maybe does now a job once every 5 years. Her compensation though is so monumental, it's so big that she's not thinking about that. I was trying to explain this to Vita literally yesterday because she was devastated that I wouldn't let her go to some acting class that they basically solicited her for off the streets. I'm like, honey, I get how that, you just did a play. She's like, but it's not a job. I go, oh, we had to have a big talking to, which is why I wanted to do this podcast today. So if you're 17, 87, claiming what you do is, it's all mental. It's all here, and then nobody can take it from you. So I really wanted to hear the definition of a working actor and even have help on how to even articulate to a 7-year-old, you are a working actor. She was already a working actor. She just did a play, 3 months, rehearsals every single week, did this outstanding play. But you know what she experienced? The low of being done. And I had explained to her the low of being done, and watching the 7-year-old process all of that was wild. The next day, she was like, well, I can go do this audition thing. And why am I not booking any of my auditions? And I was like, honey, you've had 3 in a year. You know what I mean? I was like, I had 150 something auditions in the last year or so. And you know how many mommy got? 3. Like, she was like, so doesn't care, right? She wants to
what are numbers?
What are numbers? She wants to be working. So if you had to put it into words, what you define as a working actor, what would you say?
I mean, I think the moment that you sort of decide that this is an art form that you are going to pursue wholeheartedly to try to make your living off of it, right? That anything that you can do is being a working actor. I can sit in a park and watch people, and that is feeding something, where I'm being observant, where if I'm observing human behavior and sort of trying to figure out what are their lives like, imagination, playing with my curiosity, that's being a working actor. Going to see a play is being a working actor. Logging my auditions is being a working actor. Reading the trade is being a working actor. Putting a budget together for the month is being a working actor. I think a lot of the times too, we sort of get very like tunnel vision, that everything that's working has to be somehow related to the craft. So I'm in class, okay, I'm a working actor, okay, I'm reading the trades, but how you take care of yourself, meditating, you know, being financially healthy, setting those habits now, all of that feeds into your life as a working actor. Like, it's a holistic, that's why that was something that was so desperately missing in my training, which is why I'm so glad that you and I have created a platform for this, because it's holistic. It's everything that we do feeds into this life and how we juggle it and how we survive it. So therapy is me showing up for my artist self. You know what I mean?
100%. Everything you said, ditto, ditto, ditto. And I think I also became a working actor when I started assessing every life situation, slightly masochistic, but every life situation where I'm like, I never would have played it that way. How interesting that reacted like that. How interesting that when death came knocking on my door, or divorce, or this or that, things that scripts are written about, stories are constantly thematically always being put out there, I then assess it, put it in my little back pocket, right? So next time I'm going to look at the behavioral patterns like this. I mean, that's why we literally rebranded our whole business so that we could define what a working actor is and the 3 pillars. It 100% is craft, and that is educating yourself with language, with behavioral patterns, with your instrument. But it's 100% also the healing modalities of, like you said, therapy, of understanding the masochistic version of like assessing how people walk, talk, think in a situation. And then now part of being a working actor is absolutely knowing your tech. 20 years ago, it was not that. It just was not that. We didn't have laptops, microphones. We didn't have all this stuff in our homes. That was not happening in our homes. Now it is. Thank God it is, because you can be a working actor globally now, because you can not live in the major markets.
But the evolution continues, right? Because even engagement in the union and being informed about contracts and being more like, all of this is feeding into things where 5 years ago, if you would have asked me something about a contract, I would have been like, I don't know. I'm just so happy I got the job. Do you know what I mean? Yes. If I had the mindset that I had then, I feel like I would just feel so much more empowered about where I'm going and where I'm heading and how I show up in the world. Right. So I think so much of what we're doing, especially as we're developmental and starting out in this industry, is gathering as much information as possible so that we can be as empowered as possible and walk on this path with our eyes wide open. Right. Understanding that this isn't a career that's going to save you from your circumstances. This isn't a career that like guarantees monetary success. You can be working for 20 years and just get by. So really getting in touch with your why. Why do you want to study the human condition is huge. Because it may sometimes be the only gratification that you get is in the process of examining that complexity.
Absolutely. Process over results. We talk about that all the time. And I also just think too, a working actor is not somebody that's dreaming of doing it. They are in the process of doing. So I want to also just say, when I first started, this was such a dream. This felt so unattainable to me, which is why I was seeking it. And then once you have one job, that's just a job. In order to make a career out of it, there's a responsibility that goes into it. And that's the other part, I think, of other pillar that we really focus on is networking. And I don't mean networking to be like, oh my God, I love you so much. I met Lawrence Bender the other day, who is a wonderful producer, Pulp Fiction, every single one of Tarantino's projects you can think of. Like he's a prolific producer. He's been working for a very long time. I didn't overcome him with accolades and all these gratitudes and all this stuff. I was like, oh, how interesting. I wonder what he's working on. I'm working on a lot of things. We met. Now I can nurture that and move forward and see if there's ever anything he can give insight for me on in the future. But I have no idea if that's going to pan out as far as a networking. What I mean is being in the rooms with other people who are doing those things.
It always comes down to curiosity.
Curiosity.
Are you curious about their process, about their insight, about how they view the world, about what turns them on about storytelling, about what stories they're gravitating towards? Like, I think once you make that shift of like, what can they do for me, to a curiosity about their process, it opens up engagement on an authentic level, because you really are curious and I don't want anything from you. And the more you get to know me, maybe you'll be like, wow, there's something really here in alignment and I want to work with this artist. But we will never get there if you are constantly thinking about what you can get, which again goes back to being result oriented, to wanting that gratification now, to feeling like I need this thing to lead me somewhere or else it's not worth pursuing. And that's the thing that took me so much time to break down.
Well, and also I think what I wanted to relate it to too, it's like a job versus a career. So when the course that we did, Booked It Now, part 2, even part 1, I talk about people like, you getting a job, great, go do the job. That job is not going to make your career. It's not going to break your career either. Where it will help solidify a foundation for you is sitting at Video Village, is doing your job, having your craft hit your mark, do all the things, make the day easy. So, because money, just make that day easy, get what you need to get. And then understand everything else that it takes to make a story come to life. An actor is such a small, tiny little piece, but we get a lot of the credit because you see our instruments when everybody else is doing that. You laying the groundwork of understanding everybody else that's involved in this, that sets a foundation of people wanting to work with you in the future. It might be 5-10 years down the road. So the networking pillar of being an actor is so much more to me than like who you know. It's your reputation. It's the rooms that you're in. It's how you actually conduct yourself when you're in those rooms. It's having a community of actors, other fellows like you that are creating content. And again, what can we all do together, or what can we be curious about, but versus how are you going to get me ahead? Because let me tell you, every time you think you're getting ahead in this business, you're just going to slide down that slippery slope. And you will not be at the SAG Awards being like, hi, I'm Alyshia Ochse, and I am an actor. Cannot wait to say that one line one time.
Just once. Yeah.
Just once. I mean, but even that's result oriented. But the reason why I would like to be awarded, it's not to hold the statue. I mean, let's be real. Actually, that would be pretty great. But I want to be in that room. I want to be sitting at the tables where incredible storytellers are sitting at that moment, whether they're new, old, inspired, whatever it might be, so that I can be part of the conversation of riveting filmmaking. That's the reason why I want to be in that room. Not because, let me tell you, I've interviewed people that have the statue.
Doesn't mean anything after a while.
Anything at the end of the day, it really doesn't. But what that statue did is it put them in a room, and however they operated in that room allows them to continue to work or not work, because now we have cancel culture all the time, right? So being a working actor today, 1, have the confidence to say that you're doing it. 2, here's the other thing that I definitely want to lay out. I think for a long time, it took me a while to figure out how to be a working actor if I wasn't in class or doing something. There is something that you can do every single day to work towards being a working actor. That can be broken down into 20 minutes or 1 hour a day, whether that's reading a play, I would say that's your craft, figuring out how to set up your self-taping, figuring out editing, whatever it might be, And then another segment of that is starting to connect with other filmmakers, other storytellers, anybody else, or being out in the world. So I think that you can set your schedule up, even if you're not auditioning a lot right now, even if you're in a conservatory, even if you are auditioning a lot. What's that hour a day so that you're actually working towards something, your 10,000 hours? Do you
And
have
I
any
think
other?
I just kind of want to add to what is your taste? Cultivating your taste in terms of
Like this.
that, to me, is a big pillar of what being a working actor is. What are you good at? What stories do you gravitate towards? You know, in the beginning, it was such a grab bag, right? Anybody who asked me to do anything, I was like, yes, 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 because I was just so eager to get into collaborations with people. And I think that that's good when you're starting out, because it does kind of put you in front of different way that people work, different stories, and then you can decide, wait, am I in alignment with my instrument? Does that excite me? Is that worth me investing this time? And then you start sort of really cultivating what kind of artist you are. You know, Jake Weissman talked about this in our pep talk, that there's a lot of exploration before you develop your voice. And I don't think as artists, we sort of value that messiness because we want to be ready made, but that is being working actor, developing
Yeah.
who you are and what your taste is and how you show up in the world, your essence, your point of view. All of that is work that will meet you when those opportunities come, if you really fine tune your voice.
Yeah, and I think the final thing that you and I have really kind of adhered to in our mentoring or cultivating our community to rise to that place, right? To go from being a student of acting to really working as an actor is the staircase analogy. You don't know what you don't know. You're going to fuck it up. The best piece of advice I ever got before I directed my first film was hey, you're really going to mess it up. And I was like, what? That's your advice? They're like, yeah, you're going to fuck it up. So go have a good time and fuck it up. Because what you learn on this is going to change what you do the next time. It's going to change how you are as an actor. And I wish I would have had that looseness and that messiness at the beginning of my career to know it's baby steps instead of landing here being like, I'm going to be on a hit show like tomorrow. And then what does that do to my mental health? When I am not prepared to carry a show at that time. No way, no how. Thank God. Thank God I never got that opportunity that way. People
Yeah.
were smart. You need to learn. You don't know what you don't know. So the staircase analogy, what's the next step up versus jumping landing so that you can make a career out of this and not a one-off job? Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, that really, you don't know what job is going to quote unquote move the needle forward or not. That is so out of your control. But if you can measure the baby steps and look just a few inches in front of where you're going versus yards and fields in front of where you're going, your mental health stays in check, your confidence. As a teacher, as a mother, that's what I teach, right? Like my daughter had to crawl first before she was walking, before she was running. She didn't jump. Some kids do. They jump up and they just start walking. They're anomalies. Ashton Kutcher got here and 2 weeks later had that 70s show. That's an anomaly. There's no overnight success. My favorite interview that I think an actor's ever done when I was early on was Josh Lucas. It was after Sweet Home Alabama, and all the rage was Josh Lucas. Every nighttime, the late shows, they were all like, wow, overnight success. And he finally stops them and he goes, I've been working for 25 years. You guys didn't know who I was, but I've been working. And I
Yep.
was so grateful that he stopped the narrative of overnight success, because most likely anybody that you see that you are moved by in the television and film that or on stage, that is not their first
Mhm.
rodeo. Been doing it for a long time. So staircase analogy, I think, is huge,
And
especially since we're at the end.
be gracious with yourself, because our relationship to failure is one that we have to deeply cultivate, because you have to fail to grow. And I think, again, back to school mentality, back to capitalist mentality. If we don't get that star that tells us we did it perfectly, we don't value the growth. right? So
Mhm.
you have to fail. It is part of growing. I remember being so frustrated and early in my when I was doing the 2-year conservatory because I wasn't getting it right and I was spending all this money and why am I not getting it right? And it's like, no, the struggle is the process, but you don't
Struggle.
feel it when you're in it. So I just want to reflect that if you're in a moment right now where you're struggling through something as you are working on your craft, that's the juicy part. That's what you need to lean into and really explore. Why is it making me feel this way? What do I need to unlock? What do I need to get past? What is this block about? Because it'll just open up that next level.
It will. And also, mistakes are so valued in this industry. Everybody
Mhm.
thinks that perfectionism or getting it right is actually valued and that's going to get you the job. It's the opposite. I can't tell you the majority of the jobs that I've gotten pre self-tape era is because I messed up in the room. And it was how I handled that mistake that got me the job. And I cannot stress that enough.
Yep.
When I think that I nail an audition, I'm not getting it. I'm not. Every time I'm like, that was so right. Ooh, look at me working. Look at me working. That's the thing, right? Look at me working.
Yeah.
Versus, oh God, did I messed that. Okay, let me just see what happened. And it's usually when when we coach and
Well,
like
that's when
an
your
actor
instinct,
drops the
that's when
mic.
your instinct comes out and who you really are comes out. And I think ultimately that's what all this training is for. Who are you
Mhm,
really at your
mhm.
essence? What, because that's when people lean in.
Exactly. So, as a working actor, the gift, the wisdom that I want to give today is like go be messy. The confidence I want to give is you are enough. If you say that this is what you want to do and you are a working actor, I advise taking an hour a day to invest in your craft, tech, and business. Find your tribe, find your community, and be around other people who are striving to be good storytellers and not famous. You know, I just want to say that. You got words of wisdom for a working actor?
Just breathe. Take this last month, last few weeks of the year to really go inward. We've been through a very crazy year. Who knows what's on the other side of this? Let's hope for 2024. Let's light all the candles, but just breathe. Right now, just focus on family or, your chosen family, whoever you have around you that you love, and enjoy this time. There's a lot going on in the world, and so it's okay to have heavy hearts.
Yeah, and we're here for you.
Yeah.
Literally, when I say find your tribe, literally, I mean find your tribe. And we are working actors who are helping other people, other actors work. That's what our mission is, because in the heart of everything comes back to the experience that I had. And I wish that I had somebody that would have taken my hand when I
Same.
landed in LA and say,
Mhm.
oh, wow, do this, do that. And that's why I started the podcast. I mean, I farted. I made a mistake, not once, but twice, but it made me vulnerable. It opened me up to then seek where other actors have made mistakes and were they able to still have a career? How did they audition? Where did they work from? So find your tribe, not only just listening to this podcast, join us, join
Yeah.
somebody and make sure that it's healthy. I want to
Yeah.
stress that too. Make sure that the reason and the intention that somebody is cultivating and teaching you is because the light is there and not the need and desperation. There's wonderful, wonderful teachers and mentors out there. And then there's wonderful working actors that actually want to share everything
Yeah.
because our instruments are different. Anna and I share everything. We're not, you and I are never going to get the same role. I can't wait till we have the same job, but we're not going to have the same role. And it's invaluable to see how other artists prepare, work, audition, do self tapes, and show up in the world. So get yourself a good tribe.
Yay.
Thanks so much. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Look here in the show notes. If you do want to join us, we would really love to have you. We have a lot of exciting things coming up in the new year. Also, I'm going to announce this now. Anna, don't be mad at me because I didn't tell you this before. But if you go to the link on my social page or you join the mailing list at alyshiaochse.com, or if you join the mailing list over on Anna's page as well, we are opening up our calendars to start reviewing self-tapes for free. So once a week, I'm going to throw out that email, or you'll be able to submit your email to send a tape, because you don't know what you don't know, and you need to see kind of where you land. And your agents and managers, they're wonderful. Their job is to get you the opportunity, not to necessarily give you feedback. There's some really great agents and managers that do understand camera and story and wonderful things, but get in alignment with other people that are working to see how they're doing their self tapes, so you can figure out, oh wow, yeah, I need to work on that, because 2024 is going to come in fast and hard, and I'm so excited about it. And we will be using self tapes as our way to get to keep our careers.
First call, self tapes. Let's make a great first impression. Yes, if you go to my Instagram at Put Me On Self Tape, there's going to be a link to join for Anna's office hours, and that's when I'll be releasing appointments to check out your self tapes.
I can't wait to see what we get to see. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Till next time.